Ellis Spender glanced over his shoulder. The man was still there. He had first noticed the heavy-set figure, belted navy overcoat, hat pulled down low over his eyes, on Hampstead Lane, and thought little of it. Yet there he was again, a constant 5 yards behind as Ellis turned right onto the Grove. The streets were quiet and gloomy, a fine soot mist hovering low, blurring the air around him. Would the shadow break off if he crossed the road towards Highgate Hill? Ellis turned a corner. It stuck. Yes, he was definitely being followed. Sweat stung his neck despite the near-freezing January night. He paused outside the Golden Lamb. Rainbow-coloured circles of light clung to the lamp over the door. It took a moment to adjust to the brightness, the rush of smoke. A barmaid gave him the eye, but looked away, coy and blushing, when he met her gaze. Gin and French. He rattled coins to disguise the nervous shake in his hand. Evening, lad. An old sot leaning against the bar counter half raised his glass in greeting. His slack-mouthed grin exposed greyish gums. Don't suppose you got a ciggy, he slurred. His tongue pushed the single tooth in his lower jaw forward, till it leant, pitted and filthy, against his lip. No. Revolted by the perversity of the gesture, Ellis moved down the counter. He looked at the mirror-backed shelves that lined the wall behind the bar. His own distorted reflection stared back through the clutter of bottles, cigarettes and stacked glasses that zigzagged halfway to the ceiling. He took off his hat and ran a hand over his hair. Blonde waves flowed under his palm like water slipping under a bridge. There he was, sitting alone no more than 20 feet away. Ellis stared hard, willing the slivers of mirror to explain what was happening. The stranger was frowning, his lips folded in on themselves. Ellis was aware of the tremor in his hand again, a nervy tug up his arm into his shoulder. He couldn't possibly be from the Prudential, could he? Surely that was long since over. Virginia had refunded the money paid out on Ellis's claim, fraudulently submitted, according to the assessors, but what would those chumps know? The only other person who knew about that ghastly business was Uncle Freddie, but he was, thankfully, in America. Perhaps the man had been hired by a creditor. Was this how it happened? Arrested over a trifling sum? Ellis swallowed hard. How he hated the constant sensation that life was fracturing under his feet, cracking, collapsing. Any minute the ice was going to break, and his body would plummet through the hole into a bottomless, freezing lake.